It's waiting. What is it waiting for? Okay, now it says it's there. Ah, there it is. All right. So let me adjust my chair and so no one has any questions? Oh, it's honestly I don't know. I think it was well actually I think I called it test one now. But here, let me go. I think I should be able to get into it. Here. Because I'm on my computer. So I think, can I log in? Oh yeah, I can get in here. Okay, so as long as I'm on my machine, I can get in because I can remember, it can remember the thing. So this is statics. Okay, CP, that's a common problem. So that's just the only reason I did that. Here, I'll even show you. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so I attempted at one point just to play with it. This one gives you a little bit more time and it gives you more chances. All I'm doing there is setting up the law of cosines and sines just to kind of get you used to it. I did that in all classes because there's an issue there. And some people have trouble with it and some people don't. But you got 10 tries at that. But what this is trying to do is trying to let you know there are times where, if you think about it, here, I'll even show you here. Okay. Give it a second here. I think I typed it. There it is. So if you do arc cosine, you know that there is, yeah. So you know that sine and cosine, well, let's do cosine. So cosine starts here. It either goes +1 or -1. And it goes over and over and over. It's a terrible drawing, but if you go to octave, and then you start doing arc, cosine, and I'll do it in degrees. Let's say you do 1, you get nothing, because that's right there at the screen. If you do 0, you get 90. If you do -1, you get 180. Now if you just keep going back and forth, like, okay, this sounds weird, but I'm going to do a plot. And what I'm going to do, the value that sits under there, and it's got to go from 0 to 1. So or here, I'll just say it like this. Anywhere between 1, so let's say you did 0.95. So it says 18 degrees. And then say you did minus. It says 161. So what it's doing, it's ignoring, and I've already deleted part of this, so it's giving you this. Here's your 180, and that's of course your 0. If actually your angle is actually like, say 200, it's not going to give you 200, it's going to give you that. And sine does something similar, but the thing with sine, it starts here. Okay, I'm trying to do a decent job in the drawing, but so there's your sine, and there's your cosine. So in other words, there's a limit on all the arc, or the cosine inverse and the sine inverses. So your problem is you're not going to get the right angle sometimes. And so this is an attempt to do that, an attempt to an attempt to look at that. If you do sine, hang on. So I get 90, and then not too surprisingly, guess what? Gives you minus 90. So it only gives you answers in this region, whereas this gives you answers in this region. So the arc sine will go from minus 90 to 90. That's, here I'll say 2. And this goes from 0 to 180. So your problem is, how do you resolve that? And I'll let you figure out how you resolve that. But that's a common for all classes. So, I just list that for all. Okay, I clicked that. Let's give it some time to get there. So I would say, okay, you first might think the most advanced problem would be the last, but you might be wrong. Give it a second. I'll attempt the quiz. It'll give you a snapshot of what the problem looks like. So there, in fact, okay, what? How can I hold the control key down? No, it's not behaving. Anyway, oh, there it is. So you've seen that problem before. So there's that problem. Let me go back. You're going to find most all of these. So these are all available now, and it looks like most all of them are appropriate to take now. So I'm not sure. Here, let me look at there's chapter 3, there's chapter 4. Give it a second. So I don't think there's anything on chapter 4 in there. Chapter 4 is the next one, the test 2, or, So you're good to go now if you wanted to. And so on these, what you're going to find is, like on this one, I've already forgot which one it is, but you got the time left sitting right here. It'll just, if you just sit there and let it go, it'll time out and just give you nothing. And then that's one of your attempts. But you got a beta. Okay, sorry about that, but the degrees are kind of off shifted there. You got a beta and you got a theta. You go down here and you see your two angles. And then you got the weight of this tube. And then it's just saying, what's the tension in A, H, A, so all of them. Now, okay, I'm going to use this as an example to kind of show you why, or tell you why I use this instead of Blackboard. Believe it or not, this is a problem that's called a quad statement. And then a quad statement is severely feedback. Okay, let me hit the focus button. Okay. Is these better? No. Well, okay, so there's, I don't know if you, oh, I know, I'll zoom in. Let me zoom in here. Okay. Is that readable even? Okay. So this is not what Blackboard is used to. So on this, you have a picture problem statement. And then you can turn around and say, what's the answer to this, this, and this? In Blackboard, it only allows you to have one. So the problem is, if you want to take a test and there's no false mistake. So in my mind, this is part of picture, it says A8 is the cable right there connected to the TV. And then it tells me that the thing is 251. So if I just put in, give me a second. So let's just say I put in 250. And then I'm like, okay. It may take a second. I didn't pay a lot of money for the website, so it's not super fast. We submit it all and finish. Whoa, okay. So what you find out is, look, I got that one right. I didn't even use the right number because rated at first next to the 5%. The answer is 251.08. If you think you get that, so already you get full credit for this one, and you get nothing for that. So you forward is that 22. So then, you know, what you can do, you can go in and take it. Now, the next time you take the test, maybe look a little different and the way the two do it. But here's the other thing. Let me get my mouse covered. So if I hover over this, it tells you the answer to that one, not answer. The correct answer is that. I made it so it tells you that. And then, now, that's great, but if you look at 140 in the next attempt, you're going to get it better. So what's going to happen is, what you should do is you can stop and say, okay, I got this one wrong, I did some work here. Let me figure out if I can work this problem and get the 140. If you get the 140, and you figure out how to get the 140, you can go back and put the test to do it. And so then you slide down and you can see all the numbers. So everyone, if you don't, it's your choice what you do. It's your choice of anything you do in life. I mean, I'm just here. I'm just filling a role. I walk in here, screen or whatever. But I've had students who just answer like 2 or 3 of them, and then they just give up. And they don't go back and complete out their attempt. I've had people get C's in the course, B's in the course. I'm basically waiting on the table and saying that you just want to wait for problems and you want to get the right answer, you're going to get a table in the course. But if you don't have to. And it's up to you. Okay, I'm just fulfilling my role. And I'm trying to make it so you work a set of problems. You have to be able to work a set of problems. And if you do, don't go in. So that's the test. And I think, let me go back to the top. So here, let's say I go back to the top. Okay, I may have to go back to the thing. So I got my 20%. You can see my 20% here. It took me 3 minutes. I got 2 out of 10. Everything is out of 10 because that's the default. And then what I do is I scale it and put it in the grade book. I'm going to start scaling things this next weekend. And then you'll start getting an email once a week. Probably at the end of the week. And what it'll do is it'll have all your homework grade. It'll be an email. It's going to come from mceghomework@gmail.com. So the first time I send it, I'm going to let you know, I'm going to ask you, did you get that? And if you didn't, you need to tell me, I didn't get anything. And then we'll resolve that. Sometimes it can show up down in your little goofy thing in the, what's that called? The junk. And so let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so can y'all remember those? So there's the 250, 60.08. So let me go back. This was problem, okay, I see it right here, MT06. I'm going to go in and reattempt it. Now what you see at the very top, you get 4, I'm sorry, I misread it. You get 4 hours, 5 attempts. That's 4 hours per attempt. So if you launch it, you got 4 hours to complete it. That's really a liberal. I mean, most people, technically I should give you an hour. And a lot of people just give you an hour and they don't even give you a reattempt. So let me reattempt it. Okay, so the same picture. It's always the same picture because I don't want to redraw this. There is cases where I've done that. So this time it's 46, 43, and 270. And so there's your thing. So you got partial credit all the way along the way. There's your boxes. And so it's all set, and it's available to you right now. And we've covered the material. We're in moment now. I use that for a second. So does that answer the question? So I say, if you feel like it, you can go ahead. There are, okay, I want to say it was 7, but I'm not sure. Now, if I leave, notice I left the problem, right? And so I'm looking around. If I go back to it, continue your attempt. Now, if I hit the continue your attempt, give it a second, it's going to come back in there, and you notice the time left. So it's still counting, even though you're away. So if you start it and you step away for a while, and you go back, it's still going to be counting. So it's not the time that you're on the web page. Once that clock starts, it started, and you're going. So, but I was going to go back. Okay, so apparently, I mean, there is a common problem. That's CPO1, that's my common problem. MT was kind of a designation for a midterm, but now I'm calling it test 01. It's the same amount. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And then there are 7 problems here. They're all due on April 14th. I think you can see your final too. Now this I call test 2 because I'm still trying to figure out. I think I can do an online final, but they may want me to do an extra one that goes during that final period. But I can make it so you don't have to arrive here. So let me double check. This is an M course, M something like that. So I think I can make that an online final. So, and if I do, it's going to be on this system. But you can do these, here, let's just look at this one. Okay, you can attempt it whenever you want, look at it. And obviously we haven't covered this yet. So, these are things we haven't covered yet. Probably, the way we're going will probably be fairly soon. This is like a bridge. It's holding on to the end, it's got a triangular load. It's going to have a bunch of hidden boxes back here, and there's back here, and there's nothing here. Oh, that's like this guy. This is my own children list, so hopefully you can read it. All through is all one. And then this is all through over 2. These are locations B. On your computer screen, this version of this thing. Over here it looks pretty good. Over there it looks good. So, but again, if you take a look at everything that's being asked, this is the advantage of this system over Blackboard. These are questions that are called flowers, which have multiple answers. Most of the time, I'm putting them in the sequence because you're going to have to work it anyway. So if you can answer about right here, and then everything else is wrong, you know you're here is something wrong and you have to work it out. Fix it, and then go on. So, messed up somebody's word over here. Okay, so I hope that answered the question. Let's see. This is the writing in right here, and that's kind of the left end. So that's, what? Somebody marked on this thing. That's not a bad idea. Okay. This is about where I need to place it. So those will come off anyway. All right. So if y'all are okay, I'll just go ahead. Any other questions? If there's not, I'll just go ahead and do a problem or something on here. Not on this, but on in the moment stuff. So go for it. I mean, the midterm or test one, it's out there. You've covered the material. You do know how to get in. Here, I'll go ahead and, just in case you forgot. Okay, I think it's down lower. Exam website. So it tells you that. Oh, I see why you're calling. Okay, because I called it the midterm and final exam. That's okay. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter. So if you click that, this tells you how to get in. So, for example, if your name is John Doe, probably gave you an email. Probably if there's a John Doe, they probably gave you John Doe number 22. Does anybody have a number in there? Well, that's it, because there's somebody else that has James Doe, and then maybe it's Lee Doe, Jim Doe, or something, and you got a number there. I didn't get one. My name's for you. Then you got a key number, and I don't think they're 9 digits in the key number. So if that, you test the key number on this system, you're entering as your regular text name, but your password is not tied to the text. I thought about getting it in to see if I put it in. I kind of feel like I was creating a whole two instead of there, and I was scared that this would make me do that. And I don't like to do that. So you come in, this is your password. This, your equal sign, and then your status. Once you get in, you can change it like this. You don't have to. It's cool. So that's how you get in. And maybe I should have made it so that that was displayed in the main screen. In other words, if you look, there's no real indication that says click this part here. So exam website, that's how you get your, so I'll send an email to everyone about that as well. So let me get back and start back on this moment stuff. There is something bizarre here. I went in and I did that problem and I showed the transmissibility. Of course, I'd probably have trouble finding out exactly where that lecture was, but here, we don't need any of that anymore. Oh. Okay, all right, so we'll start over. So I'm going to do something interesting in that, and you know, maybe I should just pick that same problem. Okay, let me see if I can find where it was. It wasn't the preliminary because I don't like those. It was this one. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something interesting to this one that, and I hate to keep picking on that one, so maybe I should pick on another one. Maybe I will. See if he's got the same picture down in the next section. Sometimes he does that. He has the same picture over. Or maybe I should just work, instead of introducing a new concept, maybe I should just work a problem here. Here's a good one. Here's a pretty good picture. Here. Oh, wrong button. Wait a minute. Is that it? Okay, there we go. The reason I copied both those is because it's the same exact thing, but it just has two questions related to the same exact thing. So he says, this pipe thing is a pipe thing. is subject to 80 Newton force, and you notice it's 80 Newton on both. And he says find out the moment about A, but he also says find out the moment about B, which is right here. So I'm going to just do the regimented thing the way it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an R vector that goes from A all the way out there to C. Why A? Because I'm doing this one. I'm not going to do this one right now. I will in a minute, but let's ignore that one. And I'll erase that in a second. So I'm trying to find a vector that goes from A out to C. So instead of writing it in millimeters, I'm going to write it in meters. So we'll just know to convert that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head out to here, and I'm just going to list these things. And in listing them, I think I'll move this to the right. So I'll say I got 0.4 going out there, I got a J. And then I move out this way. I move out here 0.3, but I'm moving in the I. Then I'm moving down. So I'm just drawing these little subvectors to move from B to this point to this all the way into C. So I move down 0.2, and that's a K. And then I move the last vector, which is 0.25, and that's an I. So this is a vector, and it's 4 vectors together. This one, this one, this one, and that one. They all start at A, and they make their way all the way to C. So if I look at it, I only have these two that are along the same component. And so that gives me 0.5 I. I'm sorry, 0.55. So I'm adding this to that. 0.55 I. Then I got a J plus 0.4 J. And then I move down K. So boom, I got that. My moment is eventually going to be the moment is equal to the R, which is this one, R set, cross the force that's actually down here. So I got this, now I just need to go get the force. And so there, I've got to, I don't want to zoom in so big that I lose track of the X and the Y and the Z here. And I don't need any of this mess anymore. So what I've got here is a vector, which is F vector. Okay, so I've got to do let's see if I can do this somewhat okay. You know what, I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit. But you know what I'll do in the meantime? I'm going to give myself, this is going to be X, this is going to be Y, and this is going to be Z, just so I can zoom in and still have these coordinates there so that so I can do a better job here. So this vector is kind of like a shadow vector, and it's 80 cosine at 30 degrees. So this one is the little short one. Let me draw a little better job. So there's the little short one. Okay, but now I've got to take this short one. If I could erase that other part, but you see he has this part here. He has this line going back here. So in fact, this vector can be broken into two vectors here and here. So in fact, this one is going to be that length, or the 80 cosine 30, which is the length of that vector, and that's going to be times cosine of 40. Why? Because you're projecting it back here through that 40 degrees. And this one over here is going to be this 80 cosine of 30, because that's the length of this one. but it gets shortened because it's the sine of 40 now. The one thing that you have to kind of imagine here is he doesn't ever do a good job of completing this out. And I'll try my best to do this real quick, but here, I'm going to move this kind of to the side. And here's what I mean by that. Let's take this vector. Now I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to leave it there. Well, no, I guess I'll just move it and then I'll copy it. So I'm going to take that. And now I'm going to do a copy and a paste. I'm going to do a copy and a paste. And now, if I went in here and filled out the base of this thing, here, let's do this first. Hit the escape. Here, let's line it right there. Okay, now I'm going to hit the escape, the blue, and what you see is a box in which this will be the Z component. I hope that makes sense. Now, this, you have to realize this sweeps through 30 degrees here. So this time, this component, which is the same as that, is 80 times the sine of 30. Why? Because you actually have a triangle that sits here like so. This, and that. And that triangle is 30 degrees between it all. And so that'll give you your Z component. Now, that actually goes in the opposite Z direction. So in fact, your force ends up being complete. Okay, first I got to do the X component. Then I'm going to do the Y component. Then I'm going to do the Z component. So I'll list them. This is the X, this is the Y, and this is the Z. So what I get is 80 cosine 30 times the sine of 40 I, and then I'm just going to write it below it. And then I get 80 cosine 30 cosine of 40 J, and I get a minus. Why minus? Because this vector right here points down. Minus 80 sine of 30 K. Now, when I'm all done, guess what? I've got this vector, and I got this one. So all I got to do is take the force vector and the R vector and cross them. And that gives me my answer. Now, one of the things I love about Octave, MATLAB, whatever you want to call it, is it's well situated to solving problems like this. I'll show you why. I'm going to do a clear again. So if I type in R will be the first one I type in. Now I've kind of hidden it. Let's see. How about, yeah, you can do it right there. So R, and what did I call it? Did I call it? I called it AC. RAC equal to, put a vector there, 0.55, 0.4, and minus 0.2. So I think I typed that in correct. Or I think I typed it in correctly, not incorrect. I hope I didn't. I hope I typed it in there okay. Then I can turn around and I can put in the F. But to do that, I got to zoom in maybe right here. This one's going to be a little harder because I got a bunch of stuff to put. So first, type in A times the cosine in degrees of 30 times the sine in degrees of 40, and that sits in the I. Then I hit a space or a comma, and then I type in my 80 times cosine in degrees of 30 times cosine in degrees of 40. And then I have another space that is 80 times sine of 30, sine in degrees of 30. Put my closed brackets and I get some numbers there. So to complete this, here, I'll write the whole thing down here. So what the moment would be is an I, okay, a J, I'll go with, and a K. And the R vector is 0.55, 0.4, and minus 0.2. Now, the force vector is 44.5, and I'm too lazy to write the others. 53 and minus 40. Now, to cross this, what I would do is I'd take the I, do the, here, I'll write this. Okay, so what you do is you X that out, look at this one and copy it right down there. So it gives you 0.4 minus 0.2, 53 and the minus 40. And then what I do next is I want to do the J. So X this out, X that out, take these and copy these down. But because it's the second entry, it becomes a minus here. So I got 0.55, 44 and a half, minus 0.2, and minus 40. Now if I want to do the K as well, and I'll have a component here. I X this out, I X this one out, and then I take this, and I write it right there. 55, 0.4, 44 and a half, and 53. Now, I'm going to do one of these, but I'm going to show you something in MATLAB here in a second. So if I look at the first component, that is minus 16, I think. I hope. And this, okay, this is a minus, 0.2 times 53. Okay, if you don't mind. 0.2 times 53. Oops. And that's about 10.6. So in essence, I get about minus 5.4 roughly. And then I can do the same thing over here, but here's the beauty. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Okay, wait, where'd it go? There it goes. Yeah, let's get rid of that for a second. So I've got F in there, and I got R, or I got R and I got F. So this thing says take R, cross it with F. So what I'm going to do, cross, what do I call it? RAC with kind of F. And there you go. There's your answer. So MATLAB, Octave, whatever, will do this. Minus 5.38. Yeah, I know it's about time to go, but plus 13.09 J plus 11.37 K. So there's your moment. And the beauty is, I didn't have to do these two, and I didn't really even have to do that one, but I just wanted to compare these two, and I think we're good. So if you want to, you can go ahead and start the test if you want. I'd say go ahead, just you gotta have some fun in this world, so there you go. And we'll see you, wait a minute, what's today? Monday, okay, so I'll see you next time. Think about it, losing track of time.